GLES Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Monday morning edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports as we inch closer to NFL training camp, folks. The NFL season is right around the corner. We'll take you all the way up through the season here on Birds 365. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Monday morning, my friend? A full week of shows in front of us. Good to be back in the saddle for a full week this week.
Full week as we creep along, and Jeremy Fowler dropped a little present for us this morning. He's doing his list of the top 10 players at each position, which is, one of the more important ones because it's not his list. It's sort of a ranking by league executives, scouts, coaches that he talks to. So I think it's probably the best one, the most important. Or at least from the framework of understanding where players actually rate or grade amongst the league's power movers and guys who make decisions and things like that. So it's more relevant than if I just threw out my top 10 or certainly right. Bob Football's blog or whatever. Everybody's got their top 10, and I'll probably throw out my top 10 sometime later today, but this one is the most relevant. And as you would expect, coming off last season, Jalen Hurts did not make the top 10. Did sneak in at the honorable mention. And look, if you're being honest, that's fair. Coming off last season. Didn't play well last season. And, the goal is to get him going and back in a positive direction. And a lot of that is what this season's going to be about for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep, no doubt about it. John, how do you we'll get into the list. Obviously, we'll run it down from Jeremy Fowler. How does he do it, John, with everybody? Does he do like a survey type of thing? And then he has some sort of a point system? Like, I wonder how he does it to gauge all the people that he talks to or ask about it to create the list. If one guy tells me this guy's fourth and one guy says he's first or he's 10th, how does he create? I'm not sure if you know the answer. I'm just wondering what that looks like to try and get as many.
Yeah, I mean, it's he asks people for their top 10, and from there it's pretty simple. You get 10 points for one and one for 10, and you sort of tabulate them together. My guess is that some people, knowing some of the people around this league, I always joke about every year when they do the NFL Top 100, which is coming out now, that's a player vote. And who did I see? I saw somebody saying, well, this is the most important because it's the players actually voting. And I'd love to tell you that's true. This was an ex-player, but I've been in that locker room 10 straight years of when they've been doing it, and they spend about 10 seconds thinking about it.
Yeah, right.
And they're not filling out 100 players. They just give them a piece of paper and they say, hey, who do you think the best players are? Just right, and you don't have to go. If it's 5, you're not going down to 100.
Right. They're not writing 100 names yet.
And generally, some guys take it seriously, but 90% of the guys are just writing down their teammates, basically. So I've never taken that very seriously. Other people think it's this, awe-inspiring thing. They don't spend a lot of time on it. So I can't speak to how much time these guys spend on it. So maybe it's similar. I doubt it. But these are the guys generally that need to be, and that's another part. I would say it from a reporter's perspective. When I covered the league nationally, for like 6-7 years. And I was so much more well-versed on the other teams because I had to be, and I had the time. When you're just hyper-focused on one team,
right,
Like you could ask me a question out of left field about the 90th player on the roster of the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'll have an answer for you.
I know, right? It's much different. It's a much different.
Yeah. And by that nature, I don't have as good a feel for a lot of the other teams because you just don't have the time to keep up, or you know, the need to ask people questions about it. So you know, you never know, but generally the list is, these lists are very credible. So, you know, you seem like guys are thinking about it and guys are understanding who the best players are. And you still see, and this rings true to me as well, because a lot of these executives are just like everybody else in that they put a lot of weight on past performance, and like Patrick Mahomes is still at the top of these lists, and he's, you know, if you talk to the film nerds, you know, he's probably dropping a little bit as he gets a little bit older, and you know, obviously coming off the injury, but you talk to executives who have to face him for years and years and years, and they're like, "Ah, that guy's great," but you
Yeah,
know,
right.
so it rings true to the thing. These lists ring very, very true to me.
Yeah, the Mahomes one's interesting because he really is a player that defies a lot of the tape and film nerds, like you said. You know, like he doesn't have
Yeah.
great mechanics. He's one of those guys, and he's kind of always been like that. That's always been his
Oh,
MO.
yeah, I
his
got freezing
moves.
cold take because I said coming out of college, I said his I forget the exact one, but every once in a while they throw it, and that guy's pretty cool. He's pretty cool. I laugh about it, but I I I tweeted at the time, it was Twitter, and I said, you know, he's a mechanical mess. I wouldn't touch him, something like that.
Yeah,
And he
right.
is.
He
He
is.
is. But you know, you can't defend yourself in these types of situations because then they
Well,
just follow.
mechanical mess, yes. Wouldn't touch him though. Is where you're getting freezing.
Well, that's
take, I guess.
generally when you're a mechanical mess.
Right, right.
That does not bode well, you know. But there's the rare. Steph Curry's my greatest comp because it's like Steph Curry's the ultimate. Like for years, you take a 30-foot shot. Sometimes with him, it'll be 35, and you're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's the worst shot in the history of the world. Not for him. Not for him. So, you know, Patrick Mahomes has elevated himself to the point when he's throwing balls across his body. No look. That's a fucking disaster waiting to happen if an average person does it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that's what you're sort of great. I'm not defending. Look, I got it wrong. Whatever. I get.
No, I get what you're. I get the logic though of what you're saying,
Yeah.
and you know, the point behind why you would say that.
Yeah, and I always say, I always joke with the guy. The guy does. I'm like, yeah, I went wrong. He is a mechanical mess, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. You know, he's Steph Curry. He's the guy taking 35 footers, and you go, no, yes, because he makes it.
Right. Everyone else you don't want doing.
But if everybody else, nope.
Yeah, right.
I always say with basketball, I say Steph Curry is the worst thing that ever happened to youth basketball coaches because they have to tell their kids, don't fucking do that.
Yeah, right.
And all they want to be is, you know, Steph Curry.
Yeah, at least like when LeBron was dominant, it's like, oh yeah, get to the rim.
Yeah.
You know, so more fundamental basketball, no doubt about it, with Steph Curry. I wonder what that's like in youth basketball. It can't be good. I'm not a youth basketball coach, but
it's got to be awful, man.
Yeah, it is. One of my best friends, actually, from growing up, is now a basketball coach, a varsity coach of the high school. So he told me those kids are a nightmare to deal with. I didn't ask him specifically about that, but he did tell me that. So that's pretty funny. But all right, John, back to this list from Jeremy Fowler. We'll go right to Hurts. You mentioned he didn't make the top 10, which I think is fine given the last year or two that Jalen's had. And they had a bunch of honorable mentions here. Sam Darnold was an honorable mention, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, and then Jalen Hurts snuck in there at the very last spot of the honorable mentions. And here's the quote, and he has from an AFC offensive coach. I know it has been up and down, but I'm still betting on the Super Bowl credentials, the intangibles, and the toughness. So that's the quote listed there for Jalen Hurts. But it is obvious, John, that the last couple of years, the Hurts' standing in the NFL eyes isn't maybe what on par with what many Eagle fans think it is or think it should be, which I think is fair given the style of play they had in 24 and given the year that he had last year. But that's where Jalen snuck in there at the honorable mention spot, J-Mac.
Yeah, and the only other guys who got votes were Bo Nix, very young, obviously Daniel Jones, who played very well before getting hurt. C.J. Stroud still hanging on after a really bad finish last year, a really bad season as a whole. So yeah, I mean, I think that's where he is. I think the best when because Jeremy's been doing this for a while, and I would check in on Jalen Hurts, with some other people around the league. And I think the best explanation, I mentioned this to you before the show, what I got from a scout is like, he's like 8 to 15. On good years, he'll be like bottom of the top 10. On bad years, he'll be mediocre. That's exactly what he is. You could do a lot worse. But to your point, his standing, the Eagles are part of that as well because they're not, being proactive any longer. They're saying, well, let's see, basically by their actions, what he's going to do this year. And what complicates it even further is the money you have to pay at this position. So do you want to pay $60 million for similar quarterback plays you got last year? I think the obvious answer to that is no. And we're going to see if he can turn that around. But I think that's a perfect quote that Jeremy used because that's sort of like how a lot of Eagles fans feel. Super Bowl, intangibles, toughness. You're not talking about arm talent. You're no longer talking about the dual threat ability.
Right.
Those are the guys that get elevated up this list. You got to have some special traits, and he did with the dual threat ability, but that was taken off the table. We've talked about it a lot for whatever reason. But yeah, I do not think he was a snub. For all those who are probably going to get upset, I think the snubs were Sam Darnold and Jordan Love. I think they should have been top 10 quarterbacks. But all in all, pretty good list, and I understand the list, which isn't a surprise either.
Yeah, John, I think the fluctuation really isn't the concern for me. And if you let me here, I'll elaborate on what I mean. Every player, every person, every professional, regardless of your industry, is going to fluctuate. You're not going to be, John says this all the time, you don't have career years every year. That's why they're called career years. So a little fluctuation to me, I'm okay with. The part that concerns me is, John, the other thing that you often say, especially here in the game of football and in the NFL, time goes quick. Things are not in a stasis. And you gave the range there from Hurts. I think you said bottom of the top 10 to around middle of the pack, maybe 15, 16, somewhere in there. When's the last time we saw him in the bottom of the top 10? When's the last time that Jalen did play at the top of his range? And you've seen it in spurts, but in the big sample size of the last 3 or really even 4 seasons, it's been 3 full seasons now, I think, since we've seen that player. And my concern would be, if you look at it like a big bell curve or a pendulum, is he on the other side? I don't think it's fair to say he definitely is, but I also think there's some evidence to point to the fact that maybe he is. He is a dual threat player. They don't have the type of shelf lives that other people do. He was a player that relied on his athleticism and his legs more than even a guy like a Josh Allen or somebody like that, because they do have the big arm talent as well. is Jalen on the other side of Mount Everest here? Is he on his way back down? Is that a fair concern, or would you walk me off that ledge?
I could walk you off that ledge if I knew the running part of it would be back into the equation, but I can't talk you off that ledge if it isn't. I don't think he's the same player without that threat. And at least by the one thing, we can talk about the offense and whether it's going to truly look like a Shanahan or McVay offense, or it's going to be a blended approach. All I know is they're going to be under center a lot. And that's about, again, more than the passing game. That's about helping Saquon Barkley get back closer to where he was. And by nature, if you're putting the quarterback under center, you're taking the RPO, zone read stuff out of the equation, which even if he can do it, he won't be allowed to do it in those circumstances. So I'm not talking about extending plays, scrambling. I'm talking about really impacting the defense by, sometimes he doesn't even, sometimes they'll pull the ball in an RPO. They call it an RPR, run, pass, run.
Right.
But what that did was, hold the back end of the defense. They had to respect it. Now they don't have to respect it because you're taking it off the table. So that's the biggest part of what I don't understand.
And the other part about that, John, is it's tough to envision it gets much better considering the players getting older. You know what I mean? That's a young
that's what I don't know. I don't know if he wasn't effective running the ball last year because he can't do it.
Right, like is it Hurts or is it the scheme or is it the agent? I don't know. Those are all things.
Are they trying to protect him?
Right.
Yada yada yada. But I think that's got to be back into the equation, or he's not the player that he once was. And to your point of when, I think there was a lot of good stuff. People forget. I think there was a lot of good stuff in 2023. But it was lost in the sauce because the interceptions were up, because they had to take more chances. Why'd they have to take more chances? Because the defense was so bad. But I think I still think he was a top 10 quarterback in 2023. People perceived him to certainly be one in 2024 because they won the Super Bowl. But, that's the only time in his career since he's become a starter that he was under 3,000 yards passing. Only time in his career. I mean, they were everything was based off that running game, and understandably so. It was historic. And he was still a part of it, with the +1 aspect. So, but as a thrower, the last time he was a top 10 quarterback is probably 2023. So you're talking 2 full years, and this will be year 3. So it's fair to be concerned.
Yeah. It is. I mean, that's how I feel about it. Obviously, I still have confidence in the player, but I'm at a point where I think you got to show me. You got to show everybody. And I think obviously the Eagles have also signaled that, so everybody can, take it up with the Eagles if they have a problem with it. But they would have given the contract. Do you think, John, if it was all peaches, they would have given him the contract this summer, or do you think they would have waited anyway?
No, they would have definitely given him a contract if they, made another significant run, say not even win the Super Bowl. Certainly if they won the Super Bowl again, he'd have he'd be extended new contract. But even if they went to Chicago and lost a tough game, they might have given him the deal. If he goes to the NFC Championship game, I would say they definitely give him the deal. So I mean, part of the reason that there is so much talk about Jalen Hurts is because the Eagles haven't moved. People can say, well, they don't have to. Well, of course they don't have to. He's under contract, but he's only got $22 million in guarantees next year. Typically, in that type of situation, the Eagles, but we had this discussion with Jalen Carter, and the same thing holds true with Jalen Carter. If they really, really have no questions, he'd have his deal. But they have questions. With Jalen Hurts, same thing. They have questions. And they should.
What's the John McMullen thought process? Is it, what's broken? Is it, if that maybe that's not a great word, or Hurts, or the scheme, or the offense, or Saquon Barkley's addition? Like, is it on Jalen, or is it on everything around Jalen? The coaching, the risk-averse approach, all these. Now, maybe you could. I think the other thing is the risk-averse approach is run because of Jalen, but I think people don't want to have that come to grips moment, and they believe that the risk-averse approach is limiting Jalen. I guess it's the battle of whatever somebody believes to be true. How does John McMullen see it?
Well, I do think the risk-averse approach hurts them. I've said that before. I think they're a little bit too. Now, I've also said before, it is real that Nick Sirianni, believes in protecting the football first and foremost. And I say, for all this talk about, well, you got to win the turnover battle, you got to win the explosive play battle. Now, every coach says that, but he does back it up. I say it all the time. I've been to a lot of practices from different coaches. I've never seen a coach spend more time on ball security and taking the football away than Nick Sirianni. They have constant during individual periods, constant circuits with ball security and stripping the football more than any other team I've seen. So it is part of his ethos as coaching. But you can't tell me if Nick Sirianni had Josh Allen or the people at the top of this list, Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, even going down to Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, there's your top 7. You can't tell me that they would not be willing to put a little bit more stress on the defense because they understand the quarterbacks are capable of it. So it's sort of like a give and take.
Right.
And sometimes that might, they might have not, I say it all the time. If you're more comfortable taking chances because you have more confidence in your quarterback, you might be worse if you were a really good team from a win-loss perspective. I find it hard to believe that any of these quarterbacks who I acknowledge are better than Jalen Hurts would have the same success in this system that he has. They wouldn't be happy doing this, number one. So it's a weird,
right?
It's kind of a weird thing to try to explain to people. It's like the Eagles have done a great job building around Jalen Hurts. They would do a different job building around a different quarterback. And it might not be as good. It might be better from a statistical standpoint.
Right. For the individual, but for the team, maybe not.
So it's one of those be careful what you wish for things. But now they're in this weird framework that, all right, for whatever reason, we've taken the dual threat part of it out, at least to a significant degree. And we got to elevate him as a passer in year 7, and the whole plan seems to be run it well, so it's more manageable. It's 3rd and 5 instead of 3rd and 13. It's 3rd and 2, and everything's on the table. So it seems to be more about elevating the running game, so the passing game will be better, not vice versa.
Yeah, and you've consistently said that you believe at this point it's more about the running game, which I'm not going to push back on you on. We'll see. I think maybe you're right about that, but that would bring up the question to me: what does Jalen Hurts have to do then this year to correct to fix that? Is it a great individual performance? Is it another version of 24 where you're effective, you don't turn the football over, and you make the plays you need to in the big spots to have the big wins like you did late in the year in 24? Like, what does that look like this year? If it's all about the run game and we have these concerns that we have now, or at least reservations that we have now, what will Jalen have to do this year to put himself back in the Eagles have to pay him? What does that look like to you, John?
Win.
Is that what it is? I mean, is 2,900 passing yards and winning at a big level, is that enough, you think, to get the job done for another big contract for him?
I think it is. But I don't know if there's another path. And I think Howie, remember, Howie's already ahead of this. He's already been thinking about this for months and months. I think, look, he knows better than anybody how difficult it is to replace a quarterback. So number one, you've already seen the gathering of assets to try to have the insurance policy that if you need to move in the draft, you can move in the draft. I also think he has in his mind the framework of that next deal, which is going to be sort of, if they win the Super Bowl, sort of it'll be framed as the large extension, but there'll be outs after 2 years, sort of like a supercharged Saquon Barkley contract.
John, I don't want you to downplay the potential that Howie has a little bit of overconfidence or hubris or whatever, however you say that word.
Hubris.
I mean,
he's got a lot of hubris.
well, think about it. I know replacing a quarterback's hard, and I know Howie knows that. He did just walk off of Carson Wentz.
Well, that's what I mean.
Turn it into a massive haul and replace him with a second-round quarterback that not many believed in, built a Super Bowl roster around him. And you know what I mean? Like, is there a chance that Howie's like, I can do it again? I'm not worried about it. I think there's a chance. I'm not saying he is, but I think there's a chance.
Well, there's not a chance that he believes that. He definitely believes that.
Which might make him make a different decision than many other GMs would make in this spot.
Not only that, his job security as well. He knows he's got rope. And that's why it's so interesting, because he can do things that other people can't do for both of those reasons: his history, his demonstrated performance, and the acknowledgement that Jeffrey Lurie will give him that cushion to rebuild, understanding rebuild in Philadelphia means 2 seasons. So yeah, that's why it's so interesting. Most teams are just, all right, we have a quarterback that wins games, won a Super Bowl. For most teams, this is a no-brainer. You got to pay him, and you got to keep going, because you don't have confidence nor the ability to get this successor. Like, if Howie wasn't Howie, I don't even think this is much of a conversation. You just limp along as far as you can, but he'll be proactive if he feels. Again, if it's similar to last year from a production standpoint, and an efficiency standpoint, you'll be talking 3, and I'm talking about the passing game, not the running game. You're talking 3 consecutive years then. You know. And you're again very early. Now everybody, Arch Manning's great. The kid from Oregon's great. The kid from Notre Dame's great. They're all going to be top 10 picks. I guarantee you one of them stinks and is in the 3rd round or something. Not. I'm actually probably not, because Arch Manning's name is Arch Manning, and CJ Carr's from Notre Dame, and Moore might be the best of the 3. So they will all probably be top 10 picks. But do you believe in them? You know, JJ McCarthy was a top 10 pick, or 11, or whatever he was. It's a very volatile position. So do you believe in a player? If Howie believes in a player, he'll make a move.
Well, we'll see what it looks like. Johnny Mac, that was the top 10. Well, we'll go through a little bit more of that list now with Jeremy Fowler. I just wanted to talk about Hurts a little bit. He snuck in at the honorable mentions. For those just checking in on the show, Jeremy Fowler has been doing his list, his top 10 list for different positions, and he kind of talks with different executives, coaches, and scouts to help rank the top 10. Jalen was the last honorable mention on the list. I don't know if this was in order, but behind Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, and then came Jalen Hurts. The top 10, John, what'd you think? 10 was Caleb Williams. 9 was Jared Goff. 8 was Drake May. 7 was Justin Herbert. 6 was Dak Prescott. 5 was Lamar Jackson. 4 was Joe Burrow. 3 was Matthew Stafford. 2 was Patrick Mahomes, and 1 was Josh Allen.
Doesn't surprise me that Josh was number 1. This league loves him. I wouldn't put him number 1. I've always said he's a little bit too reckless for me, but he is the most difficult to stop when he's playing at his high level. Interestingly, you saw him against the Eagles. The Eagles stopped him, and they should have lost the game, but they didn't lose the game. But that's and that's why you don't do one play scouting, which I say all the time. But that bothers me. Like, the game is there for you, wide open in the end zone, and you miss that throw.
Right.
You're not the best quarterback. I'm sorry. So, by no means, he's not going below 3 or 4 for me, but he's not 1. And Patrick's not 2. My number 1 would be Joe Burrow. And even that, I'm a little concerned with, the injuries and what that offensive line is doing to him. But he's so much better than everybody else when it comes to processing. That's why he's my 1. Plus, he's the most fundamentally sound quarterback as well. And it's not like he's got a bad arm or he's got no mobility. He's really good. He's probably the best at manipulating the pocket. He's just the best player at the position. Stafford would be 2 for me. And then Josh probably, and then Patrick would be 4. So you're talking about the same 4, just in a different order.
Right.
I don't have any problem with Lamar being 5. He could certainly dive back into it, but a little bit of similarities to Jalen Hurts. They're taking away a lot of the running game. How does that impact him moving forward? But he's a better passer than Jalen. So he's still a really high-level player. I think that's a little bit too high for Dak Prescott. He belongs in the top 10.
Yeah, I think it's a little high for him too.
I would certainly put Justin Herbert ahead of him. I would put Jordan Love ahead of him. That's the biggest snub for me. Jordan Love's a good player, man. I don't know why people.
He had a
like
good
him.
year last year, Jordan Love.
Yeah. Oh, he's a really good player. So to me, he'd be in my top 10. So I'm just doing it off the top of my head. So I have Herbert 6, Jordan Love 7, then Dak Prescott 8. The other snub is Sam Darnold. I'm putting him in at 9. I think it's ridiculous that some of these executives can't admit mistakes. How many games does that guy have to win to get in the top 10? I mean, we talk about Jalen Hurts winning.
Well, what
Why
was it,
don't
27 in 2 years? That's not enough. So he's going
Yeah.
to need to
At
increase
31, 31, because he won 14.
Oh, that's right. The playoff games, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's in my top 10 at number 9. Way too early to put Caleb Williams in the top 10. He's just too inconsistent.
I know. I think people are just banking on the incredible plays
that
he
the
made.
talent is
Yeah.
So I guess coming off last season, I'd put Drake May at 10. Although Goff is probably a better quarterback, so I might still stick Goff in there at 10. But those would be my top 10. Jaden Daniels could be in there if he gets back to where he is. Because the things I love about Jaden Daniels are people talk about the mobility, which is a big part of it, but he's tremendous. A lot of Lamar Jackson, he's very accurate. He makes sound decisions. So I've always liked Jaden Daniels. But he's got to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, he missed. How much of the year did he miss last year? A lot, right?
Yeah, quite a bit. And then everybody else, Brock Purdy's good. And he's limited, obviously. Baker Mayfield is sort of very Jalen Hurts-ish. He's fearless. Blah. That was the quote about him. Teammates love him. Well, maybe not there with Jalen, but sort of intangible stuff with him. Trevor Lawrence is very talented. There's something missing with Trevor Lawrence. I can't put my finger on it, but he's definitely gifted. Jalen, we talked about. But those are, and the only other guys who got votes were Bo Nix, who I'm not a big fan of, but had a great season. You got to give him credit. Daniel Jones, who I do think played very well, but now has another injury he's got to come back with. CJ Stroud, who was, looks like a mental block to me. And then I'm trying to think of the quarterbacks that weren't mentioned.
I don't know if there are any words, John. I mean, any quarterback who got a vote, those are kind of, how many names are listed there? 19, right?
Yeah.
Or 19 or 20. I mean, that's
I think they got it. I think they got
everybody else is.
I think they got everybody. I'm trying to pull up the quarterbacks.
What do you think of CJ Stroud, John? I'm a little out on him.
Yeah, that's understandable. After he definitely has to bounce back. Tyler Shuck, maybe could break through. I'm trying to look at potential breakthrough.
I you know what? I like them in the South this year, John. The Saints with Kellen Moore and Shuck.
Yeah,
you could see it.
Bryce Young didn't get an honorable mention. A little surprised by that. Aaron.
I think Bryce would be good.
I'm surprised Aaron Rodgers didn't get at least and Kyler Murray. I'm surprised he didn't get. It'll be interesting to see with Kevin O'Connell, and they have a lot of talent.
Boy, have you seen what the media is tormenting Kevin O'Connell over this JJ McCarthy? Did you see Dan Patrick the other day?
No.
So Kevin O'Connell's getting interviewed by Dan Patrick, and Kevin O'Connell gives this very coach answer about the battle and about working through everything in camp, and And basically Dan Patrick just answers him and says, okay, so Kyler Murray's going to be your starting quarterback. In other words, JJ, and he's like, and Kevin O'Connell, he just doesn't even have an answer because, it's very obvious that JJ McCarthy's not very good, but Kevin O'Connell's not.
Well, by the way, Kevin, yeah, it is because you want to keep up the trade value. I think they're trying to trade him. But yeah, I got a kick out of it because some of the Minnesota reporters, and I used to work there. I don't know. They're all new, but I don't know. But I'm like, they were buying into the comp. I'm like, I guarantee you Kyler Murray's the starting quarterback of the Minnesota. I guarantee you, barring injury, of course. There is no competition. I mean, Kevin O'Connell can't wait to get out of the J.J. McCarthy business, and I can't blame him.
Was he a part of that decision, you think, to bring him in there?
I don't think so.
No?
I think that was
Kwesi.
Now that as things go on, that's why Kwesi got fired. Kevin really wanted Aaron Rodgers really wanted to play in Minnesota, which, look, it wouldn't – at the end of his career, he's not going to go win the Super Bowl, but they would have been a playoff team. And, they drafted him and they wanted to give him – it's one of the worst – but remember, they could have had Sam Darnold or Aaron Rodgers. They both wanted to play there. So you had to go through it. No, we don't want you, Sam. And he goes and wins the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, no, we don't want you. And he goes and makes the playoffs in Pittsburgh. He's going to the Hall of Fame on top of it, obviously. And Kwesi's sitting there. No, we're going to roll with J.J. McCarthy. And that is the worst quarterback play in the NFL. And they still won 9 games. And they were better when Carson Wentz was playing. And Carson can't play. So when I say that was the worst personnel decision in 20 years, I may be being kind. Because I don't, and they, similar to Seattle, they have a good defense. So they're ready-made from that perspective. They already won 14 games with Sam Darnold. I don't know if they win the Super Bowl because they've never won the Super Bowl. It's a tortured organization, but they win 12, 13 games again. I guarantee you that. Just awful decision. And Kwesi had to pay for it. But, I mean, that's the NFL. Well, yeah,
it is what it is.
JJ McCarthy is not going to start for the Minnesota Vikings.
I don't think so. No, I don't. Did you even? And I'm sure you also saw this too. Speaking of JJ, Diana Rossini, I guess like at some cop cam. I was in Italy when this came out, so I didn't really watch it. But I saw it on the timeline. Some cop.
She lied again. What a shocker! She lied.
I know, but she shit on JJ McCarthy. Yeah. I saw.
Well, the thing is, she's shitting on JJ McCarthy because she's getting it from Kevin O'Connell.
Right,
That's the worst part.
Exactly.
And by the way, Kevin O'Connell, his reputation is, he's the guy who said the quote, and I use it all the time. Organizations fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail organizations.
Right.
I remember, and I still think he wants Anthony Richardson as the backup. He would go when they were playing in Indianapolis the one game, he went over to Anthony Richardson, had a long talk with him, keep his head up, blah, blah, blah. Things not going well for him. This is not an impatient guy. And he got to look at JJ McCarthy and said, I don't want any part of that.
Nah.
That is what so much of my.
Yeah, but to be fair, JJ McCarthy never at any point showed anything to be excited about. Not even in college. He did nothing.
Well, that's true, but it's not like he wasn't projected to be a first-round pick.
Yeah, he was, but I guess it's because his Michigan team won that.
Yeah, because they won the national championship. And I would say at the time, before anybody drafted him, I said, I don't get it. The guy never – at one point, Michigan, I think, ran the ball against Penn State a 28 straight times, some outrageous number. And I'm like, if you have a first round draft, you don't do that. So even Jim Harbaugh was like, this guy's got some limitations. And on top of it, now that he's gotten to the NFL, he's very immature, it seems. He doesn't take it seriously enough. That's the knock, at least, and some of that might be, kicking the guy when he's down. But look, I said it last year. He can't play. And even if there's a reclamation project, it's one of those things where it's not going to be in Minnesota. This is a guy who needs a wake-up call.
I don't know if there's a reclamation project there, John. Every other quarterback.
People would have said the same thing about Sam Darnold.
Yeah, but Sam Darnold had serious traits coming out. Like traits that I understand why an NFL
Yes, that's correct. That's true.
JJ did not, and he never did.
No, I agree. I agree with that.
So,
but I'm just saying, this is a guy who needs a wake-up call.
Yeah, maybe you're right. We'll see what ends up happening with it. Johnny Mac, continue to roll on. Today, I want to welcome and thank everybody for being here on Birds 365. We are inching closer, folks, to camp. We are just over 2 weeks. We are 15 days away from the Philadelphia Eagles reporting to training camp. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be talking about that. We will prepare you guys very well for what to look for in training camp as we go through that process. They'll have a joint practice later next month in August. They'll have preseason, and then the season will be here, folks, before we know it. John, we will get into hour number 2. Before we get there, I did want to give you a chance to discuss some NFL news. The Seattle Seahawks are going to be sold for $9.6 billion in a group led by 49ers limited partner Vinod Khosla. For those who don't know, I think he's like a venture capitalist of some sorts who acquired his wealth that way. He will be the leader, I think, of the group who will purchase the Seattle Seahawks at $9.612 billion, a record for an NFL franchise. How about that, J-Mac? Can me and you make a coalition to buy the next NFL
I always
team?
say if somebody wants to give me $9.6 billion, I'll run a team.
You'll need a little more than that now. They just set the market. So you're going to need 10, I think, next.
Yeah, it's funny. When does that run out at some point? They didn't beat the Lakers. The Lakers still are the top.
What were they, 10?
10, I believe, yeah. But, I mean, the previous leader for the NFL was the Commanders, and Josh Harris was just over 6. So big leap up coming off the Super Bowl. I mean, it's Vinod Khosla, and interestingly enough, I believe his wife is going to run the team, not him.
Is he going to have to get out of the 49ers business then?
Yeah.
All
right. They own like 3% of the 49ers.
Yeah, it's not much, but still, I mean, they're in there.
He's all, you mentioned the venture capital, but he's also co-founder of Sun Microsystems. So he's a big tech guy.
Right.
And that's really where he got his money. And that's because they came from, Paul Allen passed away and it's his estate, and they wanted a tech guy, and they wanted somebody who's interested in, in helping the community and all that kind of stuff. And he's got a reputation of giving to charities and all that kind of stuff. So easy to do when you're worth $15.6 billion. But there you have it. I don't like the idea of this. No offense. The wife is running the team. I don't know how that's going to work out, but the good owners are the ones who get out of the way. So you'll have to wait and see. Will they allow John Snyder, one of the best general managers in football, to continue to do his job? So wait and see.
It's interesting you say that, though, because I wouldn't classify Jeffrey Lurie as he gets out of the way.
Yes, he does. But now, when I say get out of the way, look, every owner's going to be involved with head coaching decisions, every quarterback decisions. I mean, it's their team. It's just part of it.
Right.
And if you're smart, you steer them in the right direction anyway. But for the most part, the nuts and bolts, he doesn't get involved. And the only part he does get involved in is occasionally with the assistant coaches and occasionally with draft picks. And I generally criticize him when he does it. But they're going to be nobody's going to buy something for $10 billion and just completely divest themselves.
Right. There's degrees. I get.
But the smart people, and generally the people that have that kind of money, are smart. They do delegate, and they do understand that they're not the experts in this particular field. So, but there's different levels, and most get a little bit too involved because it becomes a bit of a fantasy for them. So with all these instances, you just have to wait and see. I mean, Josh Harris is the last one. Look, in Philadelphia, he's not very popular because of what he's done with the Sixers, but it's all relative, right? In Washington, he's a savior because he rescued that team from Daniel Snyder, who's the worst owner in the NFL for years and years and years. So it's always a crapshoot, but they got a good thing going in Seattle, and you'll know pretty quickly if they're going to say, all right, these guys know what they're doing. Let's keep it going. But, Paul Allen bought the team, I guess, in late 90s, and then he passed away in, I don't know, I'd have to look it up, but a couple years ago. And it's been the estate running them, and he had these sort of bullet points that he wanted to sell the team, and evidently they reached them. But you never know with these types of situations. But he was a big tech guy as well, obviously, Paul Allen. So I think that was important to him.
Interesting stuff there, John. If the Seahawks are worth $9.6 billion, what are the Philadelphia Eagles worth? 11, 10, 12, 9? What do you think?
I think I hate valuations because they don't take into affect the moment in time. Like, you see all these things from Forbes and now there's a lot of them front office sports, and they all do valuations, and basically what they're based on is what the last team went for. And as I said, the last team went for $6 billion plus. So I believe coming into this sale, I'm trying to look it up, Seattle was worth $6.7 billion, according to Forbes. Well, you fucked that up, Mr. Valuation. And I'm not picking on Forbes. It's just they're the most relevant. So the point is, nobody, like anything in life, is the economy humming? Do you have a really rich guy willing to pay? So it's not just, the Seahawks got $9.6 billion or whatever it is. So the Eagles are in a bigger market, so they'll get 11. Now, the good news is the Eagles aren't being sold. And, the successor's already in place.
I don't know. You don't think Julian might be like, you know what, Dad? Instead of running this team, I think I'd rather you leave me $6-7 billion from your $12 billion sale of the team. I don't really want to deal with these Philadelphia fans. I don't know. I don't think you can rule that out when you get the numbers like this, Jay.
Well, I mean, the guy doesn't do anything else. So, I mean, he
I think
seems to
he'll
love
find something
football.
to do pretty quick with $6
Yeah.
billion.
Well,
You
yeah,
know?
if he wants to just hang out and party, and I guess, but all indications
Or
are,
business. I mean, that's enough capital to run 10 businesses if you really want.
yeah, but what, generally guys have interest in, if you're already involved with something else. He's not involved with anything else. He's just, preparing to take over this football team. And
it's
Jeff
true.
McClain did a good article on him earlier this off season. That's all the guy does. So yeah, I don't see any other interests that would take him away from running the Eagles. So, but to your answer, everybody, the top teams, here were the top valuations before the Seahawks sale. Cowboys were 13 billion, Rams were 10.5 billion, Giants were at 10.1, Patriots were at 9, 49ers 8.6, Eagles 8.3, and Seahawks were down at 6.7. So they got 3 billion more than expected.
Yeah, so blow those numbers up.
Yeah. So take those valuations with a grain of salt, because if there's no competition, number one, it's like anything, you need leverage, and it doesn't become a bidding war. It could be lower. So yeah, those valuations are, if anybody does buy I don't even know if they have the hard copy version of Forbes anymore, if it's just all digital. So if you want to print it out and throw it in the trash can, that's about the worth of any sports team valuation.
Yeah, no doubt. I think the Eagles might be up near 15. We're gonna have to up our number of super chats needed to acquire a stake in the Philadelphia Eagles, folks. All right, good stuff. Johnny Mac, 2 weeks out, man, from training camp, just over 2 weeks, 2 weeks and 1 day, I believe the Tuesday. So it's Monday today. 2 weeks from now will be Monday, and then another day we'll have that Tuesday. That's when the Eagles will report to training camp. What are some things, John, when you think about that training camp upcoming here for the Philadelphia Eagles? I think it's an important one. Obviously, you don't learn everything, and you do a good job at tempering people's expectations on what to learn in training camp. But with a new offense, a new coordinator, a projected new scheme, and what feels like, I don't want to call it a hot seat, but what feels like a crux point for the team with the quarterback, with the coach, with the new offense. I do think there's some things to look for here at training camp. And obviously you won't learn as much as you will when the season rolls on, but we're going to get what we're going to get to start. What should people prepare for at training camp coming up 2 weeks from now, J-Mac?
Yeah, I think offense is going to be the story, basically on a daily basis, because of all the uncertainty, all the projected change. Whereas the defense is pretty much locked in. And it's going to be good. It's just a matter of how good. So I think, that's going to be the story of the whole season, how Sean Mannion fits in, what this offense looks like. How does Jalen Hurts handle it? How do you replace A.J. Brown? The depth on the offensive line. Can the offensive line stay healthy? I'll tell you this, when we talk about these lists and came out today, disappointing for Eagles fans, but most of them have been very good for Eagles fans. Like, people still think, and I'm not talking about Bob Football's blog. I'm talking about people in the league. Most people look at this roster and say, that's pretty good. And I think that's correct, but I do think it's a little bit still, based on past history rather than the moment. I don't think the snapshot of the moment is as good as people think it is. I said that last year. But we're going to see. And hopefully for Eagles fans, I'm wrong. But the expectations aren't going anywhere. In fact, I was just writing about that over the weekend, because we have some, discussion with Nick Sirianni a few weeks ago that will start coming out about July 20th, I believe. I do think that the expectations have not wavered at all. And that's basically Super Bowl or bust.
Yeah, well, I think that's what Jeffrey Lurie requires, to be honest. If those expectations change, you're probably looking at a new regime in terms of the coach.
Well, I don't know from the organization's perspective. I shouldn't say that because they're very hyper focused in the moment. It's about next week, next day, blah blah blah. They're not talking about the Super Bowl, but the expectations, they're aware of the outside expectations. And those have not wavered. And that makes it more difficult on the organization, obviously, because if you don't live up to those expectations, you get what you got last year. That was a disaster. 11 wins in the NFL is a disaster. And really 12 if you think about it. But they've embraced that for the most part. It's better than the alternative when nobody expects anything out of you, and that means you stink. But I do, and you get this exercise from doing the top 25 list that we do every year. Over at SI, I mean, it was more difficult to get to 25 this year. So, that's often a point for me. Did they get better? Did they get worse? Well, from a talent perspective, they're not as good as they were. Now some guys could, who knows? But I don't see a lot. Makai Lemon could hit the ground running. Eli Stowers could be more impactful than I think he's going to be.
The only thing with Eli Stowers is I think he could be a good player, but you've talked about this. I mean, does he fit as the tight end too? Not really, right?
Well, that's why I don't have as large of expectations as other people have. That all I get from other people is, well, they took him where they took him, so he's going to be on the field. I'm like, okay. You ever meet Nick Sirianni? Certainly know it from everybody knows it from Vic Fangio's perspective. He'll freaking, and I'm not saying by any stretch Reek Woolen was great in the spring, but if Reek Woolen wasn't great in the spring and, some of the stuff in Seattle, lack of focus, bad tackler, if that came to, you really think Vic's going to have a problem sitting him down? If Jonathan Jones can play, he'll do that in a second. Nick's the same way. He's not playing Eli Stowers because he was a second-round pick. Now, if he deserves to be on the field, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Well, we'll see, and we'll be able to start to get a gauge on it on training camp when that comes up in 15 days from now. John, I want to move to talk to Sean Mannion here. Talk about Sean Mannion. I know we all like to talk about how bad the offense was, and it was pretty bad, but it wasn't all bad. 85% of trips in the red zone, the Eagles scored a touchdown on. I believe, and you can correct me on this, John, you might not know. I think that's the best in the NFL in the last century, in this century, which is pretty unbelievable how good they were in the red zone last year. Now, they could finish. They could not sustain. 40% of their drives ended without a first down. They had a very long, I think it was 7.9 yards to go average on third down. So they struggled on first and second down. Now Sean Mannion, 33 years old, former NFL quarterback, never called a play in his life. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what he does to try and improve this offense what do you think he will do to try and fix this offense and also maybe sustain what they were able to do in the red zone, which was historically good?
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Probably not, right? Even if
that was so much weird about that offense last year, and that was you just hit on the weirdest part of all. That is by far the best red zone offense they've had in certainly the Nick Sirianni era, by far. I mean, by far. And they stunk at everything else, basically. It's weird. Like, you're not usually historically good at such an important part of the game. That's
and a hard part.
of the
You're
game.
right. Red zone
Yeah.
normally is tough, shorter fields, things like that.
And then you hit on the other point that I talk about all the time. Where are they on third down? You're 3rd and 8 consistently with a limited passing offense. You think that's going to go well? Well, you already got your answer. And that's why they're hyper focused on, the rebranding is the rebranding. The packaging is the packaging. That to me is, look at the shiny bauble. Just get yourself distracted. Oh, under center, the concepts, the bunch concepts, the yada, yada, yada. More condensed sets. We're going to do this. We're going to do that to make you happy. What they really want to do is just fix first and second down. And then you make it easier to pass the football on third down.
And to be clear with those problems, you don't believe that was scheme. Like if I asked you to grade 1, 2, and 3, the problems last year, players, scheme, coach being Kevin Petula. I'm going to guess for you. I don't want to speak for you, but I'm going to guess what the McMullen rating would be. Players were problem number 1. Scheme problem 2, coach problem 3, maybe is how I would go for you. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Players are always number 1, so it never wavers.
Right.
Because
that one was easy.
Yeah, that one's easy. I guess I'll go coach over scheme because the scheme is they already won with the scheme. But I would add the 4th is, I think 2nd is execution, and then you go coach, then you go scheme. But execution's same, that's involved with the players. So I guess, but I just want to emphasize it. Like they won at the highest level running this ugly scheme, which I admit. How many times have I said it? It ain't pretty.
But don't things change? You know what I mean? Defenses change, the league changes. Isn't that a part
I've never seen. Like, if you truly have the best talent, as so many people think, you're going to win. Like, I don't see anybody solving the Jimmy Johnson back in the day. You could talk to Cilio about that.
But it's a different game. I mean, you remember the Kirk Cousins clip last year talking about how different the game is today. A lot of that's because of what Vic Fangio has done on defenses. It's a different game today.
Yeah, but
as defense has gotten so much better, that it's.
But they're not better. They're just they're just forcing the defense, forcing offenses to be disciplined and patient. If you want to dink and dunk for 14 plays and you don't commit penalties, and you can dink and dunk on the Eagles all the way down the field. But you got to execute to do that. So that's the whole point. The whole point is, in this penalty-driven league, that somebody's going to throw a flag at some point, put you behind the sticks, and all of a sudden it's advantage defense. But the larger point is, look, if the offensive line played like they did the year prior, the Eagles are fucking fine. Now, again, that's a historic level. Can you expect that? No, you can't. So that part of it is the murky part of it. It's like, well, you can't have that level of play. But they've done this twice, really, And they've always had a good running game as a whole until last year, which it was underwater. And by underwater, I mean efficiency wise. Like they're always, since Nick got here, they've had a good running game, whether it's Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift, Saquon. They've always had a good running game. It just became historic. And part of that is Jalen Hurts as well and his impact on, again, people had to respect the backside because Jalen might pull it and go out himself. So he was a big part of it as well. But why I always bring up Jimmy Johnson and the Cowboys didn't go down until the attrition started. Part of that was the coach and, him and Jerry Jones getting drunk and, having a fight. And, Barry Switzer coming in, they still freaking won. People laugh at Barry. They still won. People forget that. Like, how overmatched was Barry Switzer as an NFL head coach? Pretty overmatched. They fucking won. Because they got Hall of Famers all over the place. It's become, I don't know why it's become what it's become. Ironically, during a time where the game is less complicated than ever, and everybody acts like it's brain surgery. Oh, you need this, you need this. They got to help this player. They got to help this player. Good players are going to be good in any scheme, any coach. And great players. One of the things, when Fowler was doing his top 10 edge rushers, the best quote in there was like, there's two guys in this league you can't block. How many times I've gotten that same quote? Miles and Micah. Can't block them.
Right.
So what do? Well, the Eagles, they said, and that's a direct quote I got from the Eagles. If you can't block them, read them. What does that mean? Put them in conflict.
Try and avoid them, basically.
And think about it, this is the Eagles with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata saying, if you can't block them, read them. So that's why I say players are always first, always first, always first, always first. And this idea of you have to scheme guys. If you have to scheme guys up, you're not a very good football team. Not saying you can't. Not saying you can't design a layup for a coach, for a quarterback struggling. Easy sort of that. I think, that's one of my biggest criticisms of Kevin Patullo. If a quarterback is not completing a pass in the second half, you got to get him something. Could be a quick swing pass, a smoke screen, something. Give him a layup. I agree with that kind of stuff. But if you're going into a season saying, oh, my God, I got to scheme these guys up, you're not going to win a lot of games.
Well, do they have the horses then this year? I mean.
Well, they still are better than the vast majority of teams in the NFL from a talent perspective.
Can you trust this receiving group without AJ? I mean, look, I'm not trying to. I mean, you got Makai Lemon though, banged up rookie, coming, banged up the spring, should be back. Biletnikoff winner, so he did have a good college career. Hollywood Brown and Dontavian Wicks and Elijah Moore. I mean, a rookie coming off an injury and 2 reclamation projects to replace a top 10 receiver where they weren't successful with the players with that receiver. So AJ's gone, whatever. I don't care about him. But based on what you're saying about how important players are, and I'm not disagreeing, do they have the players to do it this year?
Well, I think they do if 5 guys are healthy for 17 games.
And that's the offensive line.
Yeah. Now, what are the odds of that with the history of Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens? Probably not great. But if they're out there, it's going to be good. Are they ever going to be a high volume passing team? No. They weren't with A.J. Brown. They're not going to be with the names you mentioned. But can they get in third manageable? Then it makes it easier. I think that's the goal. Third manageable. Keep everything on the table. Make it more difficult for the defense. If you're in a bunch of third and longs, yeah, you're even worse than last year because you don't have AJ bailing you out. You only have Devontae, and Devontae's going to get double covered. And, you still have Dallas Goedert. He should have a big season at least catching the ball because of this offense. So maybe it helps him. You don't know what you have in Makai Lemon and to a certain extent Dontavian Wicks, but hope maybe he is as good as he was in college. That would be the upside. What are you getting out of Saquon? I don't know. But this idea that you're going to scheme them into greatness is, I don't think that exists in the NFL.
Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, John, you consistently point out this summer how important the running game is. You're obviously correct in that. Since 2022, Saquon Barkley is second in the NFL in rushing yards per game behind only Derrick Henry. Obviously came back a little bit last year, but he had 482 touches in 2024. You're not duplicating that or replicating that ever. So understandably so. Lane Johnson missed 8 games. Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson are obviously two guys we've talked about extensively. The other guy who I don't think maybe we've given enough flack to is Tyler Steen. Wasn't that good last year? 37 pressures, third most.
I disagree.
He got 37 pressures. It's the third most among all guards last year.
Well, understand, number one, first-year starter. And I think for that he was a good player. I think
I just think he was a part of the problems on the offensive line. Individually, you're right. It's a first-year player, probably showed some good things, but collectively he was an issue.
For the, I think, Ryan Paganetti, who's going to come on the show, he's got, by the way, he got 30,000 new followers since he joined X.
He's cooking.
So he's swamped, but he's going to be on when he gets some time. But he had to point out, some of the offensive line, when the key indicator is like, how does your worst offensive lineman play? Because he learned throughout the years that defenses are going to attack that guy. That's who they attack. That's the good coordinators, the Vic Fangios, the Brian Flores's, the Vance Josephs of the world. They look at, all right, do you have a weak link up front? And that's who we're going after. Now, for the Eagles, generally that was going to be Tyler Steen. I think it's a very contextual game. When your fifth best offensive lineman is Tyler Steen, that's pretty freaking good. That's kind of how I look at it. Because you look at some other teams and you got holes all over the place, right, and you got multiple options.
It's like you always say that one quote, look at how the rest of the league lives. That's kind of how Eagles fans should feel about the O-line as well.
So is he an all-pro? No. Is he a Pro Bowler? No. Is he a good NFL starter? Yes. In his first year, he should get better. He's going to get – you talk about a guy who's going to get a lot of money. He's going to get a lot of money, Tyler Steen, because he's going to hit the open market. And
he'll get paid.
Guards are getting paid now.
Yeah. Well, I guess with the offense, I mean, I think back to last year, and I'm not looking at the schedule here, but off the top of my head, I think they won a game 10-7, right, over Green Bay. I think they
Yes.
beat Detroit 16-9 or 10 or whatever it was. They beat Buffalo. What was the Buffalo score? 13-12 or something?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the defense is going to be exceptional this year. But it also reminds me of what you said. I don't think that's something the team should want to rely on this year. Winning football games like that, giving up 7, 9, and 12 points to offenses like Green Bay, Detroit, and Buffalo. You know, the offense has to be better this year, John. I'm hoping it is, but you know, it's amazing that they won those games last year. 13
Yeah, well,
Buffalo.
if you think, well, if games have personality, so that's part of it. I mean, the
true.
Buffalo game was in terrible weather.
Mhm.
Maybe if it's in September, it's a completely different game. Their new stadium, I believe, is a dome. I think it is.
Yeah, the new Buffalo Stadium. I think it's
Yeah.
like a pseudo dome, right?
Yeah.
But enough to keep the snow
They certainly
out.
would have. Yeah, they certainly would have put the dome up or whatever they're going to do. It is interesting. Green Bay. that it's always interesting that the Eagles always stop the Packers. It seems, and yet they're copying the Packers. It makes me laugh at a base level. And by the way, that mindset kind of explains why you don't look at individual games and make those decisions, because they like the entirety of what the Packers do, and that makes sense because it's about very well regarded organization. And I just talked about Jordan Love. I think he was the biggest snub on that top 10 list, but the Eagles have shut him down by and large. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to live in those types of games. To your point, you want to be able to score more, and I have to get better. I mean, nobody's arguing that, but I don't think that I don't think the ceiling is one of the best offenses in the NFL, and if it is, it's got to be similar to what it was in 2024. It's going to be heavily fueled by the running game. But even then, they weren't one of the best offenses, overall, just from a volume standpoint. They only threw for 2,900 yards.
Yeah,
So
I do think the extremes, though, killed them. Like Jalen Hurts is the only quarterback, I think, in 45 years to go 0 for 7 in the second half of a football game twice in one season. It's like,
well, that
can't
is
go
my biggest
halves of
criticism.
Football without completing a pass.
You got to give him some layups. You got to give him some layups. But is that Kevin Patullo or is that Jalen Hurts unwilling to accept the layups?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that you'd have a better answer to that than me.
Well, I find it very hard to believe that the Eagles weren't trying to get him some easy completions, but he was very headstrong last year from the standpoint of they tried to do these, and this part I agree with him. They tried to make these changes in season with no practice, no preparation, no time on task, which has been a big theme for him this offseason. Time on task. Now they're going into the process with the under center stuff and the quick throws and the time they're practicing it. And he feels more comfortable with it. So I think that alone will help. If you want to criticize him for that, you'd say, all right, is that the best case scenario? No, but you got to make do. And you got to get a little bit more invested in it. But I do understand why he pushed back. It's like, we just won the damn Super Bowl. Can we just keep going And then if it doesn't work, then you make
that's
the
fine,
change.
but don't have Nicole Lynn come knocking on the door for $65 million. Then, I mean, come on here.
Well, I don't think he had. I think he stays out of that. I think, in fact, one of his quotes when he signed his original extension and he became the highest paid player in the NFL, he didn't even know, and he said, "I didn't ask for all that." He didn't even know. So, I mean, that's, and he was being truthful. That's Nicole's job. I mean, that's just being an agent. That's the
fine.
going
That's
rate.
fair.
So that's what you ask for. But I do understand why Jalen Hurts pushed back, and I also understand why the Eagles were a little bit upset by that, because it's okay. At the end of the day, same thing. I say the same thing with Stoutland. Look, you're not in charge. Everybody's got a boss. You guys tell me I got to do this, I got to do that. I show up and I do it. Maybe I have a different idea for this. Maybe I have a different idea, and you go in a different direction. Happens to everybody. It's called life. You're the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. The head coach wants to go in this direction. You got to do your best to make it live, so to speak. So I understand both sides of it, but Jalen seems more willing to be invested this year because he's got the time to prepare for it. And hopefully that alone will make them somewhat better on offense.
It should be, John, because they're going to need it this year coming into the league. I think they can't afford to live like they did last year with skating by the skin of their teeth. But, it is crazy, John, that this thing that does still jump off the page when you look at last year. Man, were they good in the red zone. I mean, holy crap, were they freaking good in the red zone. So I hope they can keep that up to some extent. Maybe not to the same level, but I mean, if they can get 75%, I'd be happy.
There is no shot they will be as good in the red zone as they were last year. No shot. Which is weird.
I'm just concerned because you have boiled the offensive improvement down to the run game. And I don't disagree with the premise, I guess you could say, of that. But 35-year-old Lane Johnson, you got a banged up interior, you got a brand new offensive line coach, who just got kind of shooed out of Minnesota. Who knows if that was on him or not? Like, there are more variables that would say the offensive line will take a step back than there are that would say the offensive line will take a step forward.
I don't necessarily agree with that from the standpoint of, I get it from I think what you're saying is they're getting older, they're injured, they're going to be, but my take on it is it's going to be better than last year because they'll be healthier than last year.
Right. They had a down year and they won't stay down.
Exactly. So will it be what they were in 2020? No, I agree with that. Will they be better than last year? Yes, I think so. Just the odds that they'll be healthier. So it kind of depends on how you frame it. But overall, yeah, it's a degrading group with the exception of Tyler Steen. I think, will Jordan Mailata ever be as good as he was in 2024? Probably not. Still be good. Will Lane Johnson be what he was a couple years ago? Probably not, but he'll still be good. Landon Dickerson, when he was going to 3 straight Pro Bowls, probably not, but he'll still be better than he was last year. Cam Jurgens is
John,
the one
off the top of your head, do you know what the record was with and without Lane Johnson last year? Have you seen that anywhere or no? Just because I know that was such a big stat that people focused, you know what I mean, before he went out. I don't know what were they last year?
Well, he got hurt.
I know they
Figure it
lost that.
out.
They had that 3-game losing streak after he went out.
Yeah, they performed. They struggled. Trying to figure out when he left. So
Yeah, they lost to the Cowboys, the Bears, and the Chargers.
week 11. So that was the
Lions game.
Yeah, Lions game.
Yeah, so they lost 3 straight after he went out. They beat the Raiders and the Commanders twice, and the Bills, and they lost to the Niners. So they were 4-4.
Yeah, which is better than normal. But again, listen to those teams other than Buffalo.
You beat the Commanders and the Raiders.
Yeah. So I mean,
without Jalen Daniels, by the way.
Everything is contextual, as I say. So I mean, yeah, they did what they were supposed to do against the Raiders, who might have been the worst team in football at that point. The Commanders, as you mentioned, the one good team they beat was Buffalo. So I mean, but I mean, Lane's been around for a long time, and there is a very large sample size of what they do when he's on the field versus what they do when he's not on the field. And they're not nearly as good. So, I mean, if he can play 15 games, they're going to be better. So I do think I believe your entire point was they're descending as a group. That I'd agree with from where they once were, but I think they'll be better than last year because they'll be healthier.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. I don't think they're descending as a group. I'm just saying I think there's enough reason for someone to believe that they could be descending as a group, and that's mainly led by Lane Johnson being 36 years old or 35 years old. I mean, Lane Johnson is a future Hall of Famer. So, and they struggled again without him last year when he went out. So, I do think that's again a big part of it. John, when it comes to the defense, do you think Jalen Carter is the most important player on that defense this year?
No, I always think that's, similar to, who's the most important player on offense. Well, it's the quarterback. Usually shifted a little bit, but usually it's going to be the guy running your defense, which in the case of the Eagles is Zach Bond.
Right.
Or some teams do it from a safety perspective now. So
that's not the case. The safeties aren't the most important pieces.
No, but so I is he the most talented? Yes. Is he, the highest ceiling, the most gifted? Yes. Is he the most important? No, I don't think so. But it is important for him to get back to, an acceptable level. He did not play well last year. Like I think, people look at the Chicago game and say, oh, well, he got hurt. No, he wasn't playing well. Part of it was because he was dealing with the shoulder pain. Hopefully that was just it. But he did not play well. And I when Fowler did his defensive tackles, I'll try to get the quote. I thought he got a good quote that kind of explained Jalen Carter to this point of his career. And you've heard some of the same things from Vic Fangio. Like Vic is honest as they come. So basically, here's the quote. He flashes 10 times a game, but gets dragged far too often by average players. That's from a coordinator. That to me explains. Like for 10 plays, he looks like Superman.
Yeah.
And again, that people get enamored by highlights. and his highlights are just ridiculous. But the consistency from play to play is not where Vic wants it to be.
Right.
And that was in 2024.
Does he also stink against the run? How is he graded out against the run?
No, he doesn't stink, but well, he stunk last year. He certainly stunk in the
the Bears game. I don't even want to ever mention that Bears game again when it comes to Jalen Hurts. That thing was horrible.
Well, I mean, but he couldn't at that point, he couldn't lift weights, he couldn't do anything, so I think people have to understand that. And they shut him down after that game because, and to their credit, Chicago took advantage and they saw what was going on, and Ben Johnson deserves a lot of credit. And that was I call that the Darnell Wright game. He just abused them. And that's one of the best run blockers in the NFL. But your point last year, I mean, he did stink last year against the run, and I'm trying to get his. But I think a lot of that was that he just wasn't healthy. But the strength of his game is obviously pass rush. So let's see, 130 interior defensive linemen, he was graded out at 115 as a run defender. So, yeah, he wasn't great.
Well, we will see what happens with him. I think he's a big part of it, obviously, but I like your explanation. It's pretty good there as well. And then Zach Bond coming in. Boy, I think Zach Bond, I'm excited about his season. I think he's got a chance to have another really great season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And now Jahad Campbell next to him. I think you do lose some with Dean John, but the versatility that this linebacking group is going to have with Bond and Campbell being the athletes that they are, man, I can't wait to see what Vic Fangio decides to do with them, if anything different. But even if nothing is different, I think they'll look really good.
Yeah, I'm a big Zach Bond guy. I if there's any way you can be underrated as an all-pro in Philadelphia, that's Zach Bond. Because I don't know, there's something missing. Like, nobody talks about him. They all talk about Carter and Mitchell and DeJean. And I'm like, you do know he's been the most consistent player on defense for 2 consecutive years on one of the best defenses in the NFL. And he runs the defense on the field. Like, what's not to like? And everybody's worried about his age. Like, enjoy it. You had to watch freaking Corey Nelson and Paul Warlow and every other direct they ran through here when they didn't care about linebackers. And now you got one of the top 2 or 3 linebackers in the NFL. He can rush the passer. He's the best coverage guy. What's not to like? What am I missing? Just he wasn't supposed to be what he is. Like, well, I would think Philadelphia fans would be more enamored by that.
Yeah, well, I'm a believer. I mean, I think Zach Bond is, you've even won me over on. He's a young 30, so they're going to keep him around. Now, I think they got a lot of contract situations, so I could understand if it doesn't go that way. But I think he could be around.
Well, they already extended him.
Yeah, but that was the first extension. I mean, they signed him to a 1-year deal, which nobody expected him to play like he did on that thing. So they gave him 1 extension. I'm talking about after this.
Well, they gave him a 3-year, $51 million extension at all fall linebacker. So that's.
But aren't most of those deals like kind of 2-year deals with an easy out for the team?
Well, I mean, the Eagles are proven that to me is kind of redundant with the Eagles because they've moved on from Carson Wentz at a time when Andrew Brandt would come on this show and say, there's no way they're
Right.
taking that dead money hit. Look at the dead money hit they took on A.J. Brown. So will they take a dead money hit if he shows up tomorrow and starts being a jackass, which he's not going to do? He's a good dude. I mean, there's nothing not to like about the guy. But they can move on from anybody. They've proven that. So, yes, I mean, that's the NFL. If all of a sudden he goes in the tank, but the fact that they paid him at that position tells you how much they value him. And yes, after this season, the guaranteed money in his deal is up, but the structure of the contract remains. And all they're going to do, and I can tell you because I know how they do this, they're going to convert his salary to a roster bonus, guarantee it, and continue to move forward because they set it up that way so they could do exactly this. So, and then the protection on their side of it, and this is why Jake Rosenberg, if you're listening, is a genius, and Bryce Johnston learned from Jake Rosenberg, and now the new guys got to learn. Grant Ryder's got to learn from them. That's how they set it up purposefully. So if by, say it's pro football, so say he has a catastrophic leg injury and can't play anymore. Well, then you have protection for yourself, but you also have it built in that we value this player. We're going to guarantee his money, add $5 million on top of it. Problem solved.
That makes sense.
And that's where they are with Zach Bond. And they set that up with the 3-year, $51 million extension.
What do you think they do? You think this is Saquon's last year?
I mean, if I were betting, I would say yes. Not, it's not a fait accompli, but he's going to have a really big year. But with the history of running backs and, where he's going to be age-wise, and I don't think they're going to want to go too deep with, where they're going to go with Saquon.
Less of a chance he's here after this year than a guy like Bond, right?
Yes. Much less. Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt that Zach Bond's going to be here. Again, barring a catastrophe of a season, which I don't understand coming. I don't see coming. Saquon, I mean, part of it's just the nature of the position. Teams understand running backs, and there's a long history. Now, he's a little bit different because he's a physical freak. But similarly, this is his last year of significant guaranteed money. And they have an out after this season, and they may want to take that out. That's the difference. They have an out on Zach Bond, but they won't want to take it. With a running back, they may want to take it. On the other hand, he can run for 1,800 yards and they go to the Super Bowl. And you got another thank you contract. But I'm just playing the odds here. If he runs for 1,400 and you have to make another deal to make him either the highest or second highest paid running back, do you really want to do that as he turns 30? Probably not, I would say.
Fair enough. Good stuff. All right, Johnny Mac, good show. We got about 10 minutes left to go here on Birds 365 today. John, some other news here in Philadelphia. Not as much football related. So if you don't like anything other, if you don't like anything outside of football, this is your message to tune out of the show for the day. We appreciate you watching. John, where the heck do you think LeBron James is going to end up? Do you think there's a realistic chance that the Philadelphia 76ers could land LeBron James?
No.
No?
No, I don't. I think he's going back to Cleveland.
Why though? Why go back to Cleveland? What does that get LeBron?
He still lives in Akron. Well, he lives in Los Angeles as well, but still got a home there. Loves it there. I think he wants to come full circle, start your hometown team, finish with your hometown team.
All right, that's fair.
People forget, they were in the Eastern Conference Final. They're not a bad team.
Oh, they're a good team. Yeah, they're a good team.
So they have a chance to make a run. I don't think he wants to play with Joel Embiid. It's funny. Bob Myers has been going on Rich Paul's podcast.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I wonder if he'll think about that, because of what.
Well, they had an interesting, back and forth, because I know everybody tries to read into these things. And when he went on the first time, people were saying, well, him and they get along. So that was part of the fuel of maybe he would consider Philadelphia. And then the last one, Bob's kind of he kind of intimated that they've already made a decision. And Rich Paul was like, what do you mean by that, Bob? And he got kind of pissed off by it. It's not happening. It's not happening. Now, I don't think he wants anything to do with this organization. Anything to do with it.
You think he's still a worthy name to get super pumped about, though, don't you? Not from the business and the hype stats, from the basketball perspective.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's an amazing player. I don't even understand the people that don't recognize what type of player he is.
He's an unbelievable player, for sure.
I don't really care about you don't like his personality. I actually like him personally because I got to meet him a number of times. I think he's tremendously. I've always said he's way more grounded than he should be, considering how much attention he's gotten.
Yeah, it's fair.
However old he is. How old is he? God,
I think he's like 40, right?
He's got to be over 40, doesn't he?
He's 41.
He's 41 years old. He played 33 minutes a night. 33 minutes a night. And the numbers are what the numbers are. They're still very impressive. Over 20 points a game.
6 and 7.
Fills the stat sheet, 6 rebounds, 7 assists per game at 41 years old. But I say that to say this. He's been playing for, I'm pulling up his numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
A lot of seasons.
23 years. 23 years. And I'm trying to look. He has never played, that's his low water mark as far as minutes per game. Last year at 41, 33.2 minutes a game. This is the guy who would play, plus 40 minutes every night for years and years and years.
Yep.
He doesn't want to be involved with that nonsense. Say what you want. I mean, this guy's keeping himself in shape to play at that level at 41. And you think he's going to come in and deal with that circus?
Yeah, maybe not.
I mean, It's just my opinion.
I would
don't
just
have
love
a-
to see. I get it.
I'd love to
I don't
see
think you're
it.
wrong. I just would love to see LeBron in a Sixer jersey. I just think it would be so awesome to see. I get it. I'm going Eagle. I'm going Philly fan. I'm going delusional. I would just love to see LeBron show up in a Sixer jersey. I think that would be freaking awesome to see.
He's played 1,622 games. This is just the regular season. Forget about the postseason. Averaging 37.6 minutes per game. I mean, this is a guy who's dedicated his life to the conditioning to play basketball at a high level. I don't think he has any respect for what's going on in Philadelphia and what will continue to go on if Joel Embiid is here. Now, if there's another move, I think he might consider it. And he doesn't have to play with him, I think he might consider it. But I don't know how you'd pull that off.
Well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see, man, if he ends up there. If he goes to Cleveland, I guess Cleveland could be a contender. Could be a. I mean, they already are.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously.
I mean,
they got Mitchell. They re-signed Mitchell. I saw that. They'd be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, they made the Eastern Conference. They got blown out just like the Sixers, but the Knicks were a really good team. Yeah, I mean, they would stay one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the East with LeBron, and that means you have a chance. So,
how much better do you think the Sixers will be without LeBron? Obviously, with Brown and what they've done.
Well, similar. You have to. They'll be a lot better because they have Jalen Brown. But
are we sure the Embiid saga is over? Are they going to move on from him? Like Sliger says this too, and I noticed this too, and I've been thinking about it. Embiid didn't say he's one of the most vocal social media guys ever. He hasn't said anything about the Sixers getting Jalen Brown.
I think he knows he's no longer the center of the universe. And I think that probably he's not happy. I don't know how they move on, though. So I think they'd like to move on, yes.
Yeah.
They'd like to dump that contract, but how do you dump that contract? And I think if they can figure out how to dump it, he might consider Philadelphia. But even then, I think he's going back to Cleveland. I think he's going back to Cleveland. I mean, because I think he wants that full circle thing. And you'd rather hang out near Akron than hang out in a city he's never played in. Or
yeah, I guess you're right about that. I mean, at that age, you know how it gets. You get older, you start to, you want to go back home. I get that makes sense. Here's Dan. What's up, Dan? Aren't Cavs in second apron? I believe that's the spending tax thing, right? That's the luxury tax threshold.
He's not going to get paid a lot no matter where he goes. So he's just playing for, love of the game legacy at this point. So, I mean, it's going to be $3 to $6 million, I think, anywhere. So he's not making LeBron James money to play next.
Wait, you think he's going to get paid what?
Yeah, very, very little.
$6 million?
Yeah.
No, come on, John. No way.
No, I guarantee it.
LeBron James contract.
Yeah. This year. I'm not talking about what he's made.
No, I know that. I'm saying, I'm trying to, I mean, I don't know, $6 million, John?
Yep. He wants to go to a contender, and nobody's in a position to give him more. So he's going to play for the minimum or whatever. It's somewhere in that range. I'm not far off.
If I'm the Sixers, I'll figure out how to give them freaking 40 and get them in.
They can't. Well, they can't do that.
No, I know.
That's the whole point. If somebody could do that, he would go play there, but nobody's in a position to do it.
All right, that's fine. Boy, I never thought that would happen. LeBron making $6 million. You see some of the NBA contracts. I mean, holy crap, they're crazy contracts. But we'll see. All right, Johnny Mac, that's the end of our Monday show, my friend. Pretty good show.
Oh, here it is, by the way.
Here
He's
it is.
currently considering deals ranging from the veteran minimum, so I'm a little bit off, of roughly $3.9 million to the non-taxpayer mid-level exemption, which is about $15 million. But I don't think he's getting 50. I think it's closer to 3.9 million.
All right, well, we'll see. That's interesting. John, your final thoughts on a Monday edition of the program, my friend?
Yeah, we get some LeBron talk to end it. I'd love to see it happen, but I don't think it's going to happen. And if Bob Myers wants to win, or Mike Gansey wants to win Executive of the Year, figure out how to get out of that Joel Embiid contract.
Yeah, that would be great.
You're going to win Executive of the Year.
All right, J-Mac. Great show today, my friend. I will catch up with you tomorrow morning.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Johnny Mac. There's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Great stuff there. Appreciate all of you guys for being here today. Dan, sorry I missed this. He said, I agree, John. I think he will play on vet minimum. Dan, thank you for the super chat. We'll see. We'll see what LeBron does. I never envisioned LeBron making $6 million. I always thought it'd be a little bit more than that. But I guess I don't have as good of an understanding, or I'm not following it as closely. So I guess that's what LeBron will do. How's everybody doing on this Monday morning? I got most of the shit I needed to get done this weekend done. As you guys know, if you're following along on the life journey of one Zander Krause, I had a weekend ahead of me with the U-Haul and everything of that nature. So everything went well. We are in the new place. It is beautiful. It's nice. Perfect for us. We have a bunch of stuff actually happening in our life too. I'll share more of that with you guys soon. But a lot of exciting things happening. And so it was a good weekend. I'm a married man now, folks. Where's my wallet? Do I have it? I do. I have it in my pocket. This is like, this is the flex here. This is the flex I have for you. Woo! You see that executive member? I was in that store like 14 times this Fleming. I told you I was going to go, but we'll save that for later. I was in Costco all weekend. Picked up a couch. Picked up a bed frame. Picked up some eggs. It's like these are the grown man life accomplishments that we get to enjoy. Man, this is fun. Daz, don't worry. I got the meats. Grass-fed ground beef. $6 a pound. Woo! You guys know we're enjoying that. So, yeah, we did do that. And that's pretty fun. So that was fun. We got a banging couch. I love the sofa we got. Nice bed frame. I still got to get the studio together, Big Mike says, where's the Amex? Big Mike, don't you worry. The Amex is here, my friend. The Amex Schwab Platinum is here. I've had that sucker for a while. All right. But no, the Costco card, between there and Home Goods and Crate and Barrel and all these stores, woo, boy. No, I had fun, though. It was fun as crap. Me and my wife trekking around. I mean, it was a lot. I had a lot of fun this weekend. We really did. We had a lot of fun. My family came over yesterday to help us on day 2, which was pretty fun. So they helped. My brother and my dad helped me. I had the U-Haul. You should have seen the size of these boxes I had in the back of this U-Haul. So I had to lug them out. My brother and dad came over, helped me set that up. Did the bed frame. We built some of that stuff. So I still got to get a desk. I'm on a temporary one right now. That's why I'm on a temporary setup. The only thing I really didn't get done was the office. I had to help my wife set up her kitchen and everything, get all the boxes out so she could set that up. Obviously, they needed to get a bed. Needed to get a couch so that she can sit down and we can sit down. So we got that. But so I'm looking at some desks though. Vitamixes are unloaded, Big Will. And as I told you guys, we have too many blenders. All right. So it is what it is. Now I'm actually looking to spend big money on a desk because I use it so much. It's like I need a good office. So I'm looking at this company. I just found them. Uplift Desk. Actually, Reyes, I think they're over in your neck of the woods. They have a big warehouse or a big place. I believe it's in Austin. And you can like fully customize this thing. They get pretty expensive, but I mean, I work from home. So my business pays for our life. I got to invest in the business, and I can put that on the business card. So I found like this nice Uplift desk. I want the option to do a standard, but I'm not going to do it much. I can attach like the microphone arm. They got all sorts of stuff. So it gets pretty, you can get pretty deep with it. I'm getting an 80 by 30. I need a big desk, dude. I have 3 monitors. I need a big desk. So I'm getting a big ass desk, but Uplift desk. Check it out. You guys let me know what you think. If you think it's a no-go. I think that's going to be pretty good. So I was building that. I was configuring that last night. So I will look to do that. That'll be pretty good. And once I get that, you can see I'll get rid of my virtual background. I'm just in an empty room. This is my office. If I pick it up, I might unplug my mic. It's just an empty room. There you go. There's my old Zander Krause sign. A little. I unplugged my mic, but I got my windows there. So I got a nice little office here. I just got to build it out. I just got to build it out properly. So once I get that done, that'd be pretty fun. All right. That'd be pretty fun. The drawers. Yeah. So we'll see. All right. Wait, Swagger, I have a funny story about this. So now my wife's not like that. She doesn't. She just wants the right one for the right price. We went to Costco. We went to Home Goods. We went to Crate and Barrel. Went to Raymore and Flanagan. We went to Bloomingdale's. I found this. We go to this Crate and Barrel. I don't know if you guys. I'm sure you guys know what Crate and Barrel is. Way overpriced, but I digress. And I found there's this one. It's a Crate and Barrel outlet. And they go, oh, it's like everything's 25% off, plus the outlet price. I'm walking through this outlet store. There's couches everywhere. I'm like, I walk in. I'm like, we got to find a couch here. We can find one here. I walk in there. First off, the couches were fucking disgusting. I don't know if it's because it was the outlet. Destroyed. Disgusting. I mean, smudge marks on them. Feet marks on them. I'm like, what kind of establishment is this that they're selling couches that have shit all over them? $7,000, $8,000. Oh, but we'll give you 25% off. I'm like, bitch, I need like 80% off. This thing is disgusting. So I walked out of there and I went back to Costco. I picked up the couch for 2 racks. Thing's banging. Thing is perfect. So I was out on those stores, dude. Slagger, I'm with you. I mean, the price of, and here's the thing. This is what I don't like, right? I don't have a problem if something is 2 or 3 times the price and you can feel it. The material's nicer, it's sturdy, it's a staple piece. Like, I don't have a problem when things cost money, when they're nice. But I'm looking at these sofas and I'm like, they're pieces of junk. The one in Costco is better. It's a piece of junk. That's what I don't want. If you're going to charge, make sure it's worth it. I mean, so that pissed me off, actually, Slagger. Again, I wouldn't have a problem if the 8K sofa was worth 8K. Thing was a piece of crap. Yeah, it's a big ass section. Wait, do I have a picture of it? I don't know if I have a picture of it. It's pretty good looking. Wait, I can take a picture of it right from upstairs. Be right back. Wait, light off. Look. There it is. I think I got it in our place. We got like a ledge I can see downstairs. There's our sectional, baby. There it is. With the ottoman. Came with the ottoman. I mean, these are the grown man W's that we get in life. All right. I mean, look at that. Beautiful sectional. Daz, I'm renting. So I think it's a really small one. It's just for like snow removal. It's nothing crazy. It's like $40 a month, but I don't pay it. It's actually included in my rent. All right. So worked out well. Where's my boy CZ? CZ, are you in here? You can absolutely do that, CZ. I see your email. You can absolutely do that, CZ. For sure. All right. CZ, I'm over here reveling in the glory of picking up a couch at Costco. All right. Wait, my brother and dad were cracking up because they got I don't have a dog grass with him, but no, I do have a good yard. We're the end property. So you can actually see in the picture those windows. So like it's a townhouse, but we're the end property. So I have a big yard over here and out back here. So I love the end property. I only have neighbor on one side. We can isolate. When I walk out the door, we don't even see the neighbor. It's like we have a wall, the garage, and we're excluded to the left. So I don't have to be, I like privacy. So it's pretty good from that perspective. Renting for now, hopefully buying soon. Maybe buying after this lease is up or whatever, but we'll see how that goes. Got to save up and we'll go down that road, but that'll be fun. But yeah, so we got the nice little yard action. No dogs yet. Nah, Rasputin, my dog died last year. That was my parents' dog. When you saw the other dog, that was my parents' dog. That wasn't my dog. Yeah, my dog passed last April. One of the saddest days of my life, Rasputin. Dog was my best friend, and I'll never have a dog like that again because that was my dog. I got him in college. I didn't have a wife. It was my dog. And boy, he loved me, and I loved him. He was the best. He was the best. Did I choose, or what do you mean, Prince? We did it together, honestly. We both coalesced. It was beautiful. All right. So, no, but it's been fun. I mean, it's cool to go through this process. You get married and then you move it. It's really been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying kind of each moment, getting married, going on the honeymoon, come back and you move in, you load up the U-Hauls, you go to all the Costco and everywhere to load up the house. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. So, but I'll tell you this, I still have a lot to do. I mean, the office, I didn't even touch. I got this temporary desk that we pulled. It's like not very big or nice. But it is what it is. So this, I just literally 10 o'clock last night, because we were doing all the rest of the place. I just dragged this desk in here. This was an old desk that my wife had at her parents' house. I dragged it in last night. I didn't even set up my good computer. I'm on my laptop right now. So hopefully the show sounds all right. But I'm on my laptop right now. I didn't even set up my nice computer. Yeah, Rasp, we weren't fully set up, so we ate out this weekend. I didn't want my wife to have to cook, you know what I mean? Find the pots and pans. So we got everything set up now in the kitchen, though. Went to a nice little Italian spot. We did that. That was pretty good. And then we got Cava. Cava's fire. I didn't realize how good Cava was. We got Cava. So that was good. Went to a nice little Italian spot. So it was good. It was fun. But all right, I got to run. I got more stuff to do, folks. All right. I got more stuff to do. Yeah, Chuck says get the likes up. I need them, folks. All right. So you walk in Costco, right? You get the membership. First thing the guy tells me, it's hilarious. First thing the guy tells me, I'm getting the membership because I bought it online. I was never a Costco member. I bought it online. You got to go to the membership desk. So I get the card. First thing the guy tells me, he goes, here at Costco, we don't take credit cards or American Express. We're debit only, or you can get the Costco credit card. I'm like, thanks, dude. Thanks, brother. But I looked at him. I said, straight cash, homie. And he gave me a fist pound. It was funny. Straight cash, homie. So that was pretty funny. But, you got to outfit the whole house. You got to go cash on the barrel head at Costco. So, I don't know. My 2 Costco trips, probably 3 to 5 G's, so around 3 to 4 G's, somewhere in there. I don't know. Massive Costco trips. And we probably have more coming. So, but looking forward to it. Love all you guys. Appreciate all you guys. Let me get going. Go help my wife. And we'll have so Ras, I get the garage and we got a back patio. I got the Blackstone out there. I'm looking for some nice outdoor furniture so that I can sit out there while I'm grilling up, smoking a stogie. My wife can have everything else. I'm good with that. So, all right, guys. I love all you guys. Yeah, the knack is nice, Kimberly. I'm right around there. But I love all you guys. Hit that like button. I got to run. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back later on today with Silly on the National Football Show. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning with you guys all. And I will have further updates for the development of the Big Z Kingdom. Love all you guys. See you next time, everybody.